Welcome back. Let's get into this discussion now. So concerns are growing over a 408 million rand gratuity payment for the taxi industry from government. The Department of Transport says the payment is meant to support legal taxi operators who were affected by COVID-19 restrictions and could not access other relief. Now, unsurprisingly, many opposition MPs are concerned over the transparency of the payments and how they will be administered. But to give us some of those answers, we are joined by Mr. Collen Msibi, spokesperson for the Transport Department. Thank you so much for joining us, and we really do appreciate you making time.
And thanks for having us.
All right, so let's start here. It's a big amount, 408 million rand in the 2025-2026 budget. Why now?
Look, I don't know why our neck are on the washing line. Honestly, because these are decisions that were made by Cabinet in 2021. So that is the continuation of a decision of government to be able to assist the taxi industry, especially those at the time when there was COVID-19, and just to mitigate the impact of financial impact of COVID-19 at the time. So this is basically the allocation so that those who were unable to come forward to claim this money, they should be able to do so. So we now don't understand. It's as though it's a new thing. This is old money. It's not necessarily new money that government has allocated. And by the way, this is not a department's money. This was an allocation by government to assist the taxi industry, just like any other businesses that were assisted during that time. It's just that the numbers in terms of those who came forward to claim from the taxi industry, it's been about 88,000, and we have about 141,000 operators who are registered that we know. So we're saying the balance, they should be able to come and claim this money that we've allocated, the 400 million that has been put forward. Yeah,
perhaps a lot of the questions come from the how, right? So how you ensure that you're giving that money to the right person. But I want to get to that a little later. If you maybe want to take us back a couple steps. Let's go back to 2021, bring us up to speed. So 2021, a once-off a fund of 1.3 billion rand. That allocation is approved by Cabinet.
Yes.
What happened then?
But what happens then is that we've got to find a mechanism in terms of how the taxi operators are going to access that money.
No, I'm saying back in, so from 2021, what led us to the point where we had that shortfall? What was the reasons why that money wasn't able to, as you say, reach all taxi operators?
Well, obviously, for taxi operators to get the money, you've got to go and lodge an application. Those who were able to do so, they were able to get the money. And that is why I'm saying by 31st of March 2023, we've had about 88,500 taxi operators who were able to claim this money. But the balance, which is about 62% of the registered operators with operating licenses. So that balance, which they haven't been able to claim, obviously, we had to set deadlines. We had said that by end of 2023 financial year, they should have claimed that money. Came March 2023, not all of them had come forward to lodge their applications, and they were also asking for the extension of the deadline. So we had to approach Cabinet once again to say, can we have the extension? So this 400 million, it's actually, it had to go back to Cabinet to say, can we then extend the period? And it comes from there, basically. It's not like we woke up one morning and we said we need 400 million for the taxi operator. No, we've had to go through that process with the Cabinet, and the Cabinet approved it.
I'm sure this question has been asked to you, though, that why not forfeit the remainder of the amount? If by 2023 we're at the end of the pandemic, those that have come forward, one could argue that perhaps weren't necessarily desperate to access those resources. Why not forfeit the amount and pour it back into the fiscus?
I think it's a good point to make, but you've also got to ask yourself, if somebody says, but I was entitled to that money, that's what you said, you probably may face some sort of a good chance or being threatened with litigation of some sort. So it's better to then concede to the issue of extension. There's discussions at the moment which will still have to lodge with the minister in terms of saying at some point we're going to have to say this is the deadline which we're going to gazette, and then if the money is not claimed by that time, probably we're going to have to see whether we take it back to the fiscus. But at the moment, those are discussions. The minister hasn't even looked at that kind of a proposal.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying to you is that it's too big a number just to be able to say, look, the money must go back. That's it, we're done.
Yeah. Yeah, I've got to play devil's advocate because you say there was a deadline up until 2023.
Yeah.
By many, the deadline was missed. Yeah. So if government makes a decision and says, well, if you have not come forward to claim and apply for some of that relief funding by a certain date, it's gone, why would there be litigious steps that have been taken if government has put their feet down?
The reality is that there could be many reasons. You could find that somebody is waiting for an operating license to be approved, they've reapplied and so forth. There could be many reasons at play. But secondly, let us not forget that the industry we are talking about is moving about 62% of the commuters in the country. The workforce are using the same industry. So we can't then turn around and say, well, we are forfeiting everything. Even during the COVID period, those were the guys who were out there assisting the country in terms of getting people to work, the essential workers. So it becomes very, very difficult as a caring government to just take those willy-nilly decisions to say, look, they must forfeit the money. But more so when they come to you and say, please, can we have an extension so that we can be able to encourage our members to come forward and apply? We've embarked on a number of road shows where we even go to the taxi ranks to say, apply for this money. We continue to do so even with the new dispensation. There's other mechanisms where you can even load your application online. So it's a number of mechanisms that you can use to be able to access this money. And we do encourage the taxi associations to push their members to come forward to get this money.
I will say that we've spoken to Santaco, for instance, and also the National Taxi Alliance on this show multiple times. And not once, not twice, but multiple times they've asked, government, come forward and help us. The cost of operation is a lot. The cost of purchasing the taxis is very difficult, and they're finding that, you know, the industry in and of itself does not get the support that it's necessary. So this 408 million rand, let's put it into the taxi industry. What changes you hope it will make?
Let's also just qualify that. The 408 million, it wasn't really to compensate the taxi industry for the loss of income. It was, they call it ex gratia amount. In other words, the dictionary definition of that is that it's a favor. It's a payment that you make as a favor or as a moral obligation, but it is not a legal requirement to do so, to pay this amount. So it was really to say, look, this is the money, it's not too much. Remember, a taxi operator gets 5,000 when it started. So it was increased to 7,200 per operator. So it's not an amount that you would say it would assist you to pay your installment or to assist to cover the, for instance, the salaries of the taxi drivers and so forth. So it's really an ex gratia, as I said. So the other issue which I want to raise, the taxi industry does not get any subsidy from government. So we also need to take that into account, unlike the bus service, which is getting over 4 billion per annum in terms of the subsidy. So they are not getting that subsidy. So that should be taken into account. So it becomes morally, I mean, it becomes very difficult to then dismiss and say, look, we've been given enough time. So you might as well just forget about this money. So we've had to as a caring government to ensure that they come forward and get this money.
Yeah, I know millions of South Africans who will say 408 million rand, if you just say it in one go. You say it's not a lot, but for many South Africans it is. But let's do this. How do you check that the money is going to the right places? So talk to me about the checks and balances that are in place.
Look, what happens is that the requirements for you to be able to qualify for this amount, you need to be a South African. Secondly, you need to have an operating license. And thirdly, you need to be registered as a taxpayer. So those are the three major things that we look out for. So if you don't meet those requirements, therefore you cannot be able to access this money. So when you then approach, so how this money is applied for, it's through what you call the TRSA, the Taxi Recap South Africa a program. So we've got a company that scraps taxis, but it has also been used as a mechanism to distribute this money. So they need to approach the TRSA. They lodge the application with them. It's either they are going to their offices or they can use their website, which is trsa@taxirecap.co.za, or they can even use their toll-free number, which is 0860 159 159.
Okay.
So these are all the mechanisms they can use, but it is the TRSA that is administering this money. But they can also walk in, just like they do when they take their old taxis for scrapping. They can do the same with this one and just walk in to be able to apply.
Yeah. Today, with the announcement of the reversal of the VAT increase, you heard the term Budget 3.0 being touted about. And of course, there's now this work that's being done to, as some in government will say, plug the gap that is that shortfall of almost or just about 75 billion rand. As that process and all of those negotiations take place, the likelihood that you think that this 400 million rand will stay in place, do you, as the Department of Transport, continue to lobby for it?
Look, I can't enter into that arena, but I think probably it's the extension was granted by Cabinet. So I suppose if there's a reversal of that process, it has to be done by Cabinet. But it is the arena that obviously cannot, it's the minister who can be able to answer accordingly. But it is a Cabinet decision. It's not even a department decision. Remember, as I said to you, this is a government money. It's not a Department of Transport money. So that decision has to happen there.
Okay. Last question, deadlines then. We had the 2023 deadline that was now extended. What's the deadline for this round?
End of the financial year.
End of this financial year.
Yes. But in terms of the applications, I think we would issue some communication so that to lodge the application, at least by 6 months, we should know where we stand. From now, 6 months' time from now, we should know where we stand in terms of the applications that have been lodged. So that after that, we are able to even process those applications. Then we know what's still left in the kitty, what we should be doing about it.
And it's what, 50...
but basically, it's a financial year.
So 56,000 applicants that haven't accessed the money. Is that the correct number?
It's, well, 88,500 have. So the total is 141,000.
Okay. Yeah, roundabout. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Mr. Msibi, we really do appreciate your time. Thank you so much. An interesting conversation, and we'll be watching how it unfolds. Mr. Collen Msibi is, of course, spokesperson for the National Department of Transport.